Hi, I'm Daryl Black, and I'm here to introduce you to an online program called the Emergency Operations Center Blueprint for Post-Secondary Institutions. This is a comprehensive program to help you and your institution manage on or off-campus incidents through the understanding, through the activation, through the setting up, and the running of your post-secondary institution emergency operations center. Who is this program for? And our audience is wide. It includes emergency management program coordinators at post-secondary institutions, and those are the individuals that are looking after the entire program, the incident response program. Often they have health and safety included in that, and so on and so forth. So this program is for you because we will be talking a lot about what goes into a program, for example, so you'll see a lot of value. Maybe you have a role in an emergency operations center during an activation. So we will be talking extensively about roles and responsibilities. So yes, this program is for you as well. Or maybe you're the on-scene person. Maybe you're from security services or facilities or any other departments that would actually be what we call boots on the ground. And when an EOC is activated, you'll need to know how it all kind of comes together and what is this emergency operations center and why is it working with us? I don't get it. So this program is for you as well. So what is an emergency operations center, you ask? Well, that's a great question. Throughout my experience of 30 years of responding to emergencies and disasters all over the place and operating extensively in emergency operations center, often the EOC is a place where uncomfortable and stressed out people meet in cramped conditions to play unfamiliar roles, to make difficult and unpopular decisions based on inadequate information. Oh, that's right, in much, much too little time. Well, this program is designed specifically to deal with these pain points so that maybe you're less uncomfortable. Maybe you are less stressed out. So we'll talk about meeting in cramped conditions. Well, your physical layout of your emergency operations center is really, really important. So we'll talk about different configurations to make sure that information flows, making sure that people are working together who actually need to work together. To play unfamiliar roles, well, the antidote to that is coming up with an established, tried and true system where the roles and responsibilities are far more clear than they ever have been before. To make difficult and unpopular decisions, well, our answer to that is coming up with a process that's repeatable, that's from so much of experience out in that real world responding to incidents. And so it's a process that is far more effective and efficient maybe than we've ever gone through before. So the decisions, while difficult, will be reached far more efficiently. Will the decisions be unpopular? Well, yes, but the rationale to reach those decisions will be defensible, and we can communicate that rationale to our stakeholders. So maybe they'll be less unpopular. Based on inadequate information, that is a huge pain point of any incident or emergency operations center. So we are going to talk about how we can gather, where we gather the information from, how we vet it, and how we communicate it effectively so that everybody is on the same page. And how do we deal with this in much too little time? Well, the answer is efficiency, and efficiency in our processes and how we communicate. So we will be talking extensively about how we manage our time and introducing processes, checklists, and forms to really make your time valuable and just be way more efficient and get more done in less time with less resources. So that's what this program is all about. So what does it look like? Well, the first module is setting the stage. So the introduction, which is what I'm doing now. And then what we'll do is we will do an overview of an escalating incident from the on-scene component, so what we call the incident commander taking it on, to the emergency operations center activation. And we'll look at it as an overview only to really give you a reference of what that entire process looks like from start to finish. And then that framework is exactly what we'll be referring to throughout the course of the program. And we have another scenario at the end where we can actually put it all together, and we'll walk through what is the decision-making process from start to finish. So there's a lot of value coming out of these overviews and this scenario-based training that is directly applicable to post-secondary institutions. The second module really deals with the building blocks of the Emergency Operations Center for post-secondary institutions. So we'll talk about what is an EOC and what are the benefits. And trust me, the benefits far outweigh the detriments with regard to activating an Emergency Operations Center. We'll talk about why we would even have an EOC, which includes activation levels, because here's a bit of a tip for you. Every time something happens on campus, we don't have to fire up the Emergency Operations Center. And even if we do decide to activate it, we actually don't have to activate the entire thing. Okay, and we'll talk about that. And then, of course, we need to staff the Emergency Operations Center. And something of particular interest to post-secondary institutions is what role does the executive leadership play? So your president, your vice president, your provost, and so on and so forth. We'll talk a lot about that because that is particularly relevant to post-secondary institutions. The third module revolves around structuring your EOC. That's where we'll introduce a concept called the Incident Command System. So if you're not familiar with it, we'll give you an overview. And if you are very familiar with the ICS system, this overview will be a very good refresher for you to look at the big picture of the Incident Command System. And then once we've done that, we've gone through the overview, we're going to actually now take it and apply it directly to the Emergency Operations Center. So like we talked about, the place for the executive leadership and academic services, for example. Academic services is a nuance of the post-secondary institution that we'll talk about. Where does that go? Where is the best spot? What are some pros and some cons for each of the options? In Module 4, we'll be going through additional considerations for your EOC. So this includes where to put your EOC. Remember that pain point of cramped conditions? Well, with a little bit of pre-planning and pre-thought, our Emergency Operations Center can actually be exactly what we need to get the job done, so we're not uncomfortable and we're not in cramped quarters. So we'll talk about what is the best layout, so some different options available to you. What is the best size? What about access to breakout rooms and parking? So we'll talk about all of those types of things in terms of where to put your EOC. We'll talk about notifications and specifically some systems that are out there to notify your Emergency Operations Center staff to come on in. And the best systems include a tiered approach to activation and also maybe an emergency call center. So there is a service or two out there that we'll talk about to provide you that information and that knowledge. And then this is a part I'm really excited about. Tools of the job to include checklists and forms. And you'll be given these tools for your own use. So in your workbook for the program, you will have exactly what you need to get started and even to take your Emergency Operations Center to the next level. It will save you a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of research, and it will really get you started on the path of best practices for responding and managing an incident. That alone is worth its weight in gold. Module 5 involves what we call the EXI incident management process, and it's a 10-step process. And it involves really what does it look like from that initial conversation with those on scene to the Emergency Operations Center director, as we are calling them. So from that initial conversation, how do we go from there all the way to a successful resolution and all the points in between where we analyze problems, we figure out priorities, objectives, strategies, and tactics. How do we learn consistently about our performance? And that leads us into the after-action review concept so that we are continually being a learning organization both during the incident and also moving forward. So Module 6 is about the moving forward component and the road ahead. We'll talk about how do we implement those lessons back into your emergency management program so that we truly are, as I said, a learning organization. So we're not making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And We'll talk about what goes into an emergency management program, because my experience in a lot of cases is the emergency management professionals at post-secondary institutions are working on this off the corner of their desk oftentimes, and sometimes you don't even know where to start. Or maybe you have a very robust and sophisticated and mature program, but there are always valuable lessons to be learned from another approach, from another perspective. So we'll talk about that, and even if it talks about your program almost to a T, well then maybe it's a validation for you that you are on the right path for best practices.